The film commences with a sweeping night view of the city, accompanied by the sound of a radio broadcast in the background. Elsewhere, a man in a white shirt, Bum Sil, walks into a radio station. After a brief argument about being late and broadcasting choices, Bum Sil takes his seat behind the mic in the broadcasting room. With his headphones on, Bum Sil reads the script before moving on to a special letter sent to the show. He opens the letter and reads its contents aloud to the audience. While reading, he gets stuck on the part where the reader requests a song to be played, the same song that played on the night the sender, Jeon Suok, parted ways from their friends. However, Bum Sil soon finds his footing and reads aloud the name of the song requested by Suok, the Kansas song, Dust in the Wind. Bum Sil takes the time to explain to his listeners how the name sounds familiar to a close friend of his. The song begins to play out loud, and the scene flashes back to summer 1991, Gohyung. On top of a boat, a young Bum Sil and his friend Gilya make their way to an island, where Suok, a young girl with a bad leg, is awaiting their arrival. Upon nearing the shore, the three enthusiastically shout each other's names before jumping in the water to greet one another. They are soon joined by Gi-duk. Once the four have had their fun, they make their way back to their homes. With Bum Sil carrying Suok on his back, the four talk about Sandal, the fifth member of the group, and about how he couldn't make it. The conversation then switches to everyone poking fun at Bum Sil for being shy at school. In the middle of the banter, Gilya snatches Bum Sil's bag. She opens it up to find a cassette, which turns out to be a gift for Suok. After some more friendly banter, Suok asks Bum Sil to stop and put her down, but he refuses, reasoning that they are almost there. However, Suok doesn't want him to end up tired. Gi-duk volunteers, but Bum Sil seems hesitant to put Suok down. In the end, Gilya ends up carrying Suok on her back. Later at night, Suok is in her room, listening to the Aha song, Take On Me, on the cassette from before, while doodling in her journal. She pretends to be a radio show host while Bum Sil secretly eavesdrops from outside her window. He smiles to himself as he listens to Suok cherish his gift. In the present day, Bum Sil unfolds the envelope, revealing Suok's journal. Meanwhile, a grown-up Gilya tunes into the radio station, wondering if others are doing the same. Unbeknownst to her, they are. In another part of town, present-day Gi-duk and Sendan are also listening to Bum Sil's radio show, reflecting on the days gone by. The scene then switches to the past, where the four are trying to catch a chicken. After a brave attempt from Suok, they end up successful. The group ends up going to the beach to make themselves food with the chicken they just slaughtered. While Gilya and Gi-duk debate over the taste of the soup, Bum Sil and Suok are sitting in a corner having a conversation of their own. Bum Sil watches intently as Suok ties her hair into a ponytail, before averting his gaze to avoid being caught. Suok starts a conversation with Bum Sil about school and movies. She shares her aspiration to go to Yosu, envisioning a time when she can do everything all alone. Captivated by her enthusiasm, Bum Sil promises to take her there one day. Gilya interrupts their conversation to tell them that the food is ready. However, just as they're about to eat, Sandal arrives with a crutch. When asked about it by Suok, Sandal gets flustered and says he's actually fine. The five then sit down to eat. Once they are done, they move to sit by the shore, where Suok serenades them with a song. Sitting beside her, Sandal watches her with a yearning in his eyes. Bum Sil does the same. With the song finished, Suok heads out into the water to swim. Sandal and Bum Sil seem concerned for her, but Gi-duk reassures them, revealing that she always wanted to swim out to the island. Upon hearing this, both Sandal and Bum Sil stare intently at Suok gracefully swimming in the distance. The next morning, the villagers gather at the port to celebrate the purchase of a boat by Gi-duk's older brother. While Gi-duk participates in the celebrations, the rest of them sit in the distance. Gilya questions Suok about why she doesn't marry Gi-duk's family. However, Suok finds the idea ridiculous, only seeing the boys as friends. Gilya explains that her father and mother were friends before. To prove her point, she asks Bum Sil whether his parents are village friends too. But he ignores her question and simply asks Suok about what's wrong with marrying a friend. He seems to be hurt by her sentiments. However, the clueless Suok doesn't grace him with an answer. Shifting the conversation's topic, Suok points to an island in the distance and asks them if it's Gi-do. Sandal tells her that it is. He also tells her that sometimes, because of fog, it can't be seen. Suok thinks about when she will go there. Apparently, it's impossible for the people of the village to go there. However, she's determined to go. According to rumors, there is a lighthouse on the island where wishes come true. Sandal stares at Suok with an intense longing while she talks about Gi-do. Later at night, the villagers are enjoying a feast. As they dance about, Gilya and Gi-duk seem to be up to something. Gilya gets Gi-duk's older brother drunk. Once he is incapacitated, she sneakily grabs the boat keys from the broom and throws them to Gi-duk. Meanwhile, Bum Sil is discreetly peering inside Suok's house. He seems to be trying to spot her, when suddenly the gate opens and Suok comes out. He looks at her and smiles. However, his expression fades as a radio tape drops from Suok's hand. Suok picks it up, cleans it, and heads out, oblivious to Bum Sil's presence. Bum Sil follows her and ends up at the beach. He sees Suok preparing a boat to head out into the water. Despite being evidently hurt by her actions, Bum Sil decides better than to follow her. Meanwhile, Suok reaches her destination. She's peeking inside a building when a man appears from behind and blows into her ear, startling her. The man smiles and tells her that she looks beautiful tonight. Suok blushes and tells him that it's because she wants to take a picture. The man smiles, claiming that he will take a shower first. He heads in and asks Suok to come in too. The scene then flashes to Bum Sil sitting outside Suok's house, waiting for her. Suok is taken aback by his presence upon her return. She asks about what he's doing there, but Bum Sil doesn't answer her question, and instead asks her where she is going at this hour. Suok replies defensively that it's stuffy at home every day, so she went out for some air. However, Bum Sil doesn't buy it, pointing to Suok's hair. Flustered by his questions, Suok simply tells him to stop being nosy. Bum Sil gives her an intense stare and tells her that he will carry her. He sits down for Suok and asks her to get on. A confused Suok asks about where they're going, but Bum Sil doesn't reply, and simply asks her to hurry up and get on. Suok complies. The scene then flashes to Gi-duk pulling a rope out of the water on a boat. Sendal arrives at the port and asks Gi-duk for a favor. He wants to know if he can take them to Gi-do. He tells him that if they silently go to the Gi-do at this hour, then his mom and brother will never know. However, Gi-duk seems irritated by his request, explaining that Bum Sil already asked him for the same favor. Upon hearing this, Sendal seems taken aback. Right then, Bum Sil arrives at the port with Suok. While the others are happy, Gi-duk seems to be on his toes. He tells them to not run, since they will make a sound. Right then, Gilya arrives, shouting at Gi-duk, which freaks Gi-duk out. Bum Sil takes this moment to tell Suok that they will go to Gi-do. Suok thanks him earnestly for fulfilling his wish. He tells her that he asked Gi-duk to help him. Suok thanks Gi-duk and Bum Sil, while Sendal sulks in the background. The five board the ship. Gi-duk seems to be relying on the water's current instead of the generator. Frustrated, Gilya and the others ask him to hurry up and start the generator, but Gi-duk tells him that the sound of the generator will wake his family. Gilya starts to yell at Gi-duk to hurry up and press the pedal. Taking advantage of the commotion, Bum Sil pushes the pedal, pushing the boat into motion. The following morning, the five find themselves at Gi-do, where they stop at the lighthouse. While breathing in the fresh air, Gilya shouts her wish to allow them to gather again when they are adults. Sendal teases Gilya, suggesting she will marry someone in America. Meanwhile, Bum Sil asks about at what age they'd be considered adults. Sendal replies that when they are 20 years old, explaining how they will all have ID cards then. However, Gilya finds it hard to believe, arguing that having an ID card doesn't define adulthood. Right then, Suok butts in with her opinion, saying that they will be adults when they're 40. However, Gi-duk thinks they'll be old. But Suok turns him down and says that at the age of 40, they will meet again, to which everyone enthusiastically agrees. Back at Gi-duk's home, his mother bursts into Yang-so's room, wailing in distress. Startled by the commotion, Yang-so wakes up and salutes his mother. However, his mother slaps him, making him realize that he's at home and not in the army. Upon regaining his senses, Yang-so asks her about what's wrong. His mother tells him that the boat he worked hard to buy is missing. At first, Yang-so brushes her off and goes back to sleep. However, when the magnitude of the situation hits him, he jerks awake and hurriedly starts putting on his jacket, while his mother cries about the boat and her child. Upon hearing his mother mention his child, Yang-so perks up and asks her why she's worried about Gi-duk. His grief-stricken mother reveals that she believes someone kidnapped Gi-duk. However, Yang-so realizes what's happening and says that selling Gi-duk wouldn't be enough to buy a meal. He then angrily makes his way to the port. Back on the island, the five are talking about their hopes and dreams, unaware of what's happening back home. Gi-duk reveals that he wants to help his brother look for money when he grows up, so Suok will live comfortably. Meanwhile, Suok expresses her desire to be an announcer in a music show on the radio, like Appa Lee Munsi. She says that music does not have any legs, but the sound waves can fly around the world. She may not be able to get around, but when she becomes an announcer, her voice will be heard everywhere. After spending some time drinking and teasing one another, the group makes its way back home. However, at the port, they find Gi-duk's mom and brother waiting for them. Once the two have made sure that the kids are safe, Yang-so sends his mom home, promising her to take care of the situation. Upon boarding the boat, Yang-so finds two of Gi-duk's friends throwing up. Still, he drags Gi-duk by his ear and throws him on the floor. He starts scolding him, and picks up a stick to teach some lessons. However, before he can get to Gi-duk, Gilya intervenes, standing before him in a drunken state. Ignoring his harsh words, a smiling Gilya simply stares back before kissing him. Enraged, Gi-duk makes the four of them get down on their knees, while Suok sits in a corner with her hands in the air. He deals heavy blows to each of them one by one. Unable to see her friends in pain, a desperate Suok grabs Yang-so's leg and takes full responsibility. She asks him to hit her instead, but Yang-so seems hesitant to hit her. Suddenly Suok faints, which worries her friends. Bum-sil carries her on his back and runs to the hospital with the rest of them. However, it turns out that Suok was faking it. The five later treat their injuries, appreciating Suok's impeccable acting skills. The scene then flashes back to the present day, where one of his friends remembers this and stamps his foot on the ground in anger. The scene then flashes back into the past, where Suok is eating dinner in her house. Suddenly her father arrives and questions her about her whereabouts. Suok replies that her friends just came back. She then gently reminds him that tomorrow is her mother's Memorial Day. However, her father responds in anger, saying that he already made it clear that her mother is not deceased. He doesn't seem to believe that Suok's mother was taken away by a single wave. To him, the fact that they didn't find a body only proves that her mother is alive somewhere. However, Suok seems hurt by his words. At night, she sneaks out of the house again, unaware of Bum-sil following her. Suok makes her way to the beach, where she pays her respects to her late mother. In a heartfelt monologue, she talks about how her dad is really hurt, and how he has become like this because his heart is broken. Suok continues saying that, if he lets her hands go, he is afraid that she will really leave. Amidst loud sobs, she prays for her mom to be alright, while a concerned Bum-sil watches in the background. Later the scene flashes to Suok listening to the radio while journaling. She talks about love while Bum-sil sits outside her window, listening. The next morning, a villager makes an announcement about a show at the kindergarten hall. Elsewhere, Suok is helping out the doctor at the health center. She hands a tape to the doctor, saying that she made it with all her hard work. The doctor thanks Suok and makes her sit on the table. He says receiving gifts from her makes him uneasy, and so to make up for it, he gives her a chocolate. Although hesitant at first, Suok eats the chocolate bar upon the doctor's insistence. She gets some on the corner of her mouth, which the doctor eagerly wipes off. Right then, Bum-sil enters the hall while holding a sack over his shoulder, along with the village head, Ijingnim. He seems taken aback by the situation. The village head apologizes to the doctor for burdening him. Upon this, the doctor reveals that it's no trouble, and that he'll be returning to Seoul soon. Upset by the doctor leaving, Suok rushes outside, with Bum-sil on her tail. He asks her what's wrong and offers her some water. However, instead of revealing the real reason, Suok tells him that she is down because of the heat. Changing the topic, she points out how it's quiet in the village. Bum-sil likes the idea of the two of them being the only ones in the world. However, Suok's mind is elsewhere, as she asks if her friends have gone to the show as well. She then expresses her desire to attend the show, saying that there's a prize she really wants. Upon hearing this, Bum-sil perks up and asks her why she didn't say so before. Suok reprimands him for being nosy, but Bum-sil pays no heed to her protests, and instead grabs a cart. With Suok on board, he runs by Gi-duk's house, calling out to him. Gi-duk runs out instantly and gathers the rest of the group as well. Together the five hurriedly make their way to the school. However, upon realizing that they might not make it in time, Sendal proposes an idea. He rips off his cast and offers to run up ahead and stop the show so they can make it in time. Sendal runs through the forest at lightning-fast speed and manages to reach the show before the announcer can wrap it up. Sendal grabs his mic and runs around the ground while audience members chase him. Right then his friends arrive, announcing that there's one contestant left. Suok gets off the cart and makes her way to the stage. She sings a beautiful song while her friends join her on stage, dancing in the background, and ends up winning the first position. The next morning, Bum-sil wakes up to find the first position prize at his house. Upon asking his mother, Bum-sil learns that Suok came by in the morning to drop the prize off. Bum-sil opens the present to find a radio inside. Later, the friends gather at the bank of the ocean for a photo shoot. Suok intends to preserve the photos, to remember her friends while they go off to college. A silence falls over the group as the weight of Suok's words sinks in. Later on the way down from his house, Bum-sil runs into Suok. Upon learning that she's going to the health center, Bum-sil decides to accompany her, even though there's nothing wrong with him. At the health center, they both get checked by the doctor one by one. Bum-sil is deemed fine, except for his decreased appetite and gloomy feelings, for which the doctor prescribes him medicine. Once he is treated, Suok sits down with the doctor, and the two talk about her leg. The doctor tells her that she'll be able to walk properly after surgery in Seoul. Suok seems ecstatic about the idea, looking forward to the days she won't be a burden on her family and friends. Unbeknownst to her, Bum-sil is eavesdropping on their conversation. He beams happily when he learns about Suok being able to walk again. On their way back, Suok promises to carry him too one day, to which Bum-sil happily agrees. As soon as they get to the boat, Suok realizes that she has forgotten to bring some plaster with her from the health center. Bum-sil offers to go back for her. At the clinic, he overhears the doctor talking on the phone about how the girl's leg can't be treated, and she won't be able to walk again properly. Enraged, Bum-sil stomps inside and picks up a pencil holder to hit the doctor, but thinks better of it. He makes his way back to Suak, but doesn't say a word to her. Sensing that something is wrong, Suak offers to comfort him, but Bum-sil scolds her for being nosy. The next day, Bum-sil heads out with his friends to the health center. There, he makes a scene about the doctor prescribing him poison. Infuriated by his insults at the doctor, Suak slaps Bum-sil. The rest of the group jumps in to stop things from escalating. They leave with Bum-sil and confront him about why he would do such a thing. However, instead of giving them an answer, Bum-sil simply calls them stupid and walks away. While Gi-duk and Sandal wonder about what's wrong, Gilya reveals that this is happening because Suak likes the doctor, unaware that she's standing right behind her. Hurt by each other's words, the group disbands, continuing their day-to-day lives with a heavy heart. The next day, Suak makes her way to the farm where Bum-sil is working with his parents. Bum-sil's parents ask him to carry Suak home. However, he simply walks away without a response. Wanting to repair things, Suak catches up to him and tells him that she's helping the doctor because he's paying for her surgery. However, Bum-sil takes the moment to tell her the truth about the doctor. Feeling betrayed and desperate for answers, Suak rushes to the doctor. She steps into the water, but Bum-sil intervenes, preventing her from swimming further and guiding her back onto the boat. At the health center, Suak confronts the doctor, who reveals that she might not be able to walk, and that her father also hasn't given approval for the surgery. Feeling wounded, Suak heads back into the water to ask for her father's permission. But once again, Bum-sil intervenes and carries her to the boat. Back at the shore, he asks Suak to get on his back so he can take her home. However, a pained Suak remains seated. She tells Bum-sil that she wants to walk, to which Bum-sil replies that he would carry her for the rest of his life. Unconvinced, Suak expresses the concern that he will forget about her once he goes to college. Bum-sil reassures her that he will stay beside her for the rest of her life. As a symbol of his resolve, he pulls down the umbrella between them and gives her a kiss. Suak is moved to tears by his sentiment. At home, Suak brings up the surgery with her father. However, he shuts down her request, saying that if her condition is limited, then she can just stay at home. Faced with the crushing reality, Suak heads out to the ocean on a stormy night. She walks into the water, yearning for the ability to walk. The next morning, Bum-sil goes to her house, but doesn't find her. Suak's absence worries him. He alerts his friends, who begin to search for her throughout the village. However, their efforts bear no fruit. Later, Bum-sil goes to the bank and finds her father and some villagers already there. Bum-sil asks them to look for Suak in the village, when the divers manage to find her at the bottom of the ocean floor. However, the divers say that she can't be moved. Upon hearing this, Bum-sil jumps into the water. He swims to Suak and hugs her lifeless body, bringing her back to the shore. A grief-stricken Gilya hugs Suak and tells the villagers it's all an act, not wanting to believe her friend is gone. Later, the friends end up confronting the villagers for wanting to bury Suak in the hills. Despite the elders' sighting tradition, the group pleads with them to let them carry Suak to her final resting place. Right then, the doctor arrives at the scene. However, an angry Bum-sil punches him, blaming him for Suak's passing. Later, while praying for Suak, Gi-duk and Gilya start blaming each other. They begin to fight, but the villagers manage to stop them. They serve them the same chicken soup from before, which makes them tear up. A while later, the four carry Suak to her final resting place, and spend the night violently crying and thinking of the past. Back in the present, a grown-up Sandal gets out of the taxi and rushes to the radio to give a tape titled, "To Love," for the last song. He goes into the booth and gives Bum-sil the tape, saying that Suak made this for him. Bum-sil plays the tape on air, and is greeted by Suak's voice. He smiles to himself, but is unable to control his tears, as are his friends. They listen to the last segment recorded by Suak, which she dedicates to her friends, causing them to break down. The next morning, Bum-sil, Sandal, Gi-duk, and Gi-jil all meet up at the port after a long time. All of them travel back to the island to pay a visit to Suak's grave. They lay down near her grave, shout out her name, and tell her about their lives. Bum-sil pays a visit to the lighthouse and imagines Suak, finding comfort in her memory.